So Season 18 is here, and there are some new legend buffs and nerfs, and a complete rework of Revenant, making him essentially an entirely new legend. But with a total of 24 legends we have now, all with vastly different abilities, it could be difficult to determine which legends you should be playing. Then it is even harder to determine the optimal legend if you're a solo or duo queue player, since you can't always rely on your teammates working with you. So today we're going to rank every legend from number 24 all the way to number 1 for solo queuing. At the end of the day, this is all my opinion. Drop a like to support the channel, and we're starting off all the way down at the bottom with Wattson. Sorry all you Wattson mains, someone had to be at the bottom of this list, and I simply can't see any legend more useless than Wadi right now. She can be a ton of fun, and the one thing she has going for her is her small hitbox. But as far as her abilities go, they are next to useless in this age of Apex. First of all, she has no movement ability whatsoever, which is especially bad if you're a solo player, and you will see all the movement based legends much higher up on the list. But even her defensive capabilities are underwhelming. Her fences are easily destroyed, and her ultimate blocks her own team's throwable. If you are really good with Wattson, then I have no doubt you can get a ton of value with her, especially with her fences. But for the majority of the player base, Wattson is too difficult to get any meaningful value. Even if you pick the best legend possible, you're not going to go very far without being able to see exactly what you're shooting at. With the Diac technology and Zowi's XL2731K monitor, I feel like I have hidden cheats allowing me to see enemies clearly. What it does is reduce visual motion blur, which I find extremely helpful when dealing with fast movement legends in Apex, such as an Octane stimming or a Pathfinder mid-grapple. I find it perfect for console gaming as it makes each individual frame clear, which is vital with the limited frame rate consoles provide. And it's also a 165Hz monitor, and it's the perfect way to future-proof your gaming setup. Thanks to Zowi for sponsoring this video. You can check out my monitor settings and the monitor itself in the description. And after Wattson, we have Bloodhound. On paper, his abilities sound half decent, but in reality, they do little to help the team. So his big thing is that he can scan enemies and give your team literal wall hacks for a brief period of time. But the whole concept of what makes wall hacks overpowered is that you can catch enemies off guard. But when an enemy is scanned, it lets them know so they aren't really caught off guard, and it gives away Bloodhound's position. At least if the enemies are paying attention, and if they have any experience in the game, they will reposition and wait for you and your team to make a mistake. His passive is next to useless unless you're going for high kill games and want to track down enemies, in which case sniff the floor all you want. And his ultimate has the same problem as his tactical. It completely gives away your position. Bloodhound's ultimate causes him to breathe so loudly any enemy relatively close can hear it, which gives them the upper hand. We also have Fuse towards the bottom of the list. Now honestly, I find Fuse a ton of fun, and whenever I play him, I feel like I'm getting a lot of value. But realistically, his abilities aren't too great. Sure, you can stick enemies with a knuckle cluster and use it to break doors or force enemies into new positions. However, these can all be done arguably better with a simple arc star or a grenade, and any legend has access to them. Fuse's ultimate is next to useless when you consider how many legends in the game can easily jump over the flames with their abilities, and you can't do much of anything useful with his ult inside buildings. Then there's Seer. I just don't think the scan legends have any real place in the meta right now, and if you're a solo player, it can be very difficult to communicate and capitalize off the information they provide. His ultimate can definitely annoy the enemies, but if they simply crouch or destroy it, it gets no value. They did change around his tactical slightly, which could prove useful in high level team play where you have players ready to pounce on enemies you stun. But as a solo player, all his tactical is going to do is force the enemies to take a second longer to eliminate you. Then we have Ballistic. I love just how strong his ultimate can be with 3 players all stacked together running at super fast speeds with infinite ammo. But again, as a solo player, that is not realistic. Unless you find your dream teammates, they will likely be nowhere near you when you pop your ult, and the only real benefit you will get is the automatic gold weapon with fast reload. Don't get me wrong, it's still strong, but as you progress later into the match, everyone is going to have maxed out weapons, so his ultimate won't be providing that much of an advantage. His tactical doesn't do much of anything in my opinion. It can only really affect one player at a time, and as a solo player, you're going to be getting caught in 1v2 or 1v3 situations often. And in tough times like that, you need some sort of ability to either help you reposition or hold down a position, like the next legend on this list, Rampart. I was going to place her all the way down at the absolute bottom of this list. However, after playing her a bit more and really thinking about her place on a team, I changed my mind. Even if you have no teammates, if you play on higher ground or hold a building down using her walls, you can do some serious damage and hold off full teams all by yourself. I can't quite put her any higher on this list as her ultimate and passive are trash, and she has no movement abilities, but in the right hands, she can be a strong pick. Then we have Ashe. I find that most of her value comes from the ability to quickly push someone with your full team using her portal. But as a solo player, it can be much more difficult because unlike Wraith, once you go through the portal, you have no way of getting back. There has been way too many times I use my portal to fight a team, only to find out my team decided to stay back and shoot from a mile away, or they run off in the opposite direction, leaving me to die in a 1v3. Her portal still has has some good potential as a solo player, but it needs to be used as a getaway rather than an initiation tool. Her arc snare is decent, and you could get an easy kill every now and then, but it's nothing spectacular. Then we have the legend which I had the greatest difficulty placing on this list, Crypto. I consider him a very high skill and somewhat high reward legend. The problem is most players who use him wrong, or they just straight up suck. If you learn to use his drone as a tool to assist you in a fight rather than replacing you in a fight, Crypto could be very powerful. Don't have too much to say about Crypto as I am terrible with him despite my best efforts, but if you take the time to get really good with his drone, he could be a decent pick. Then the legend 99% of the player base hates, Caustic. Caustic has the unique ability to completely control how a fight plays out by blocking off doors and forcing enemies to either push through his toxic gas or run away. Even if your teammates die immediately, if you can find a building and play around his gas, you can consistently win 1v2 and 1v3 battles. Now if you could always play around buildings, then no doubt he would be one of the top 5 legends in the game. But unfortunately, his large hitbox and lack of movement makes him an easy target when caught out in the open. All that would be fine if he had a teammate playing a legend such as Valkyrie to help him travel around the map, but as a solo player, those opportunities are rare. And we have Mirage himself. Now a lot of players might immediately put him down at the bottom of this list, but that would be very inaccurate. Don't get me wrong, decoys are not very great, and they only get worse as you play against higher ranked players who understand the game more. Simply being under the support class makes him a decent legend in solo play. All support legends have the passive ability to craft their banners and allow their team to craft banners. And as a solo player, nearly every game, you'll have one of your teammates run off to some random place and die by themselves. Now as a support player, instead of getting yourself eliminated trying to get an impossible banner recovery, you can easily craft the banner and it's like nothing ever happened. His invisible revive also comes in handy and could help you outplay some enemies. Then another support legend, and my main legend from season 3 to season 8, we have Lifeline. Again, the support passive is amazing. Her care package is still a beacon for any high skill players to rush at you, but it does come down fast enough so you can still get away with it and you don't need to use it if you don't want to. Her tactical isn't too great, but her passive is really strong in the right hands. And they might hate it, but you can use your teammates reviving bodies as bait for easy eliminations on enemies. She also has a tiny hitbox, making 1v1 fights without abilities in your favor most of the time. Then we have Valkyrie. She is one of my favorite legends, but honestly, she isn't the best right now. Her tactical is simply a worse variation of all the long range damage and stun abilities. I'm thinking Fuse's knuckle clusters, Seer's focus of attention, Ballistic's whistler, or Ashe's arc snare. Now all of these legends were placed low on the list, so it goes to show how bad her tactical is. The stun is minimal and the damage isn't very great. Her ultimate on the other hand can be extremely strong since it allows your team to rotate around the map with ease. But then again, this is a solo queue list, and it is unlikely you'll be able to pull off a Valk queue in a tight situation fast enough without good communication and synergy with your team. And besides, with evac towers, is there any real good use for Valk result? Her jetpack allows for some outplay potential if you're good with it and can separate a team and take isolated 1v1s consistently. And that's why she's still in the middle of the pack despite being in the worst state she's ever been in since her release. Vantage. If you are good with her sniper, you can dominate with this legend. The ability to find out enemy shields before a fight will help you determine as a solo player whether or not a fight is worth taking. And the fact that she can quickly 2-tap players with her ultimate can easily turn a team fight in your favor. Her tactical, while taking a bit to get used to, is very powerful. And movement is always essential when playing solo queue as you don't want to be stuck in a bad position against a full 3-stack. One thing I will note is that you do not want to be sitting back all game shooting the sniper. Quickly take 1 or 2 shots with the sniper to do some damage, then get close and personal and help your team win the fight. Then there is Gibraltar. I am absolutely terrible with him, and for me, he would be all the way down at the bottom of the list. But in the right hands, he is amazing. If you master playing around his bubble, you will solo carry in almost every match. And with SMGs getting nerfed, the Mastiff getting buffed, and the Peacekeeper receiving disruptor rounds, the close range shotgun fights where Gibby shines is back in the meta. His ultimate also charges up 90 seconds faster, thanks to a recent buff making it charge at the same speed as Pathfinder's Zipline or Wraith's Portal. The only real problem with Gibraltar solo queue is his lack of movement, and his very large hitbox. Just like the next legend on this list, Newcastle. Another defensive legend that has some good potential when it comes to playing with random. I did a challenge where I played Newcastle for 10 hours and I figured out just how much impact he can have in a match. His ultimate can be used as a movement ability. His tactical can be used to take shotgun fights in the new meta. His revive passive is insanely strong with a gold knockdown knockdown shield. And of course, he can craft ally banners. The thing is, while he has a really good kit, he is one of the most difficult legends to master. His mobile shield isn't easy to maneuver, and his castle wall can be very hard to use properly. His abilities altogether are just a little bit awkward to use. But if you have the time, patience, and skill, Newcastle has a ton of potential. Then Season 18's remastered legend, Revenant Reborn. I'm really enjoying how Revenant is played this season. Before the rework, he required team synergy to get any meaningful use out of him. Now with his new changes, he can excel without your team needing to do much of anything. His fast, extended wall climbing, while underused by most players, is actually pretty good. He has a movement ability now, which is like a better version of Vantage's Echo Relocation. Then his ultimate essentially gives you bonus health, and if you're decent at the game, should guarantee you at least one easy 1v1 in a fight. His highlighting of low enemies is also a nice added feature and could help you secure a knock on some enemies. Overall, Revenant's abilities allow players who already have high levels of gun skill to excel. If his hitbox wasn't so big, he would be at the top of this list, but unfortunately, he is one tall synthetic nightmare. Octane. Now you're probably thinking about all the random teammates you get who stim into a fight then die immediately. While that certainly happens far too often, if you learn how to use his abilities to assist you in a fight rather than only using them to get to fights faster, then you will see just how good his abilities are. His launch pad is perfect for repositioning, and his stim can be used to capitalize off enemies out of position. And you can't forget that Octane can always run away from a fight if things go south, which it often does as a solo player. And then we have Wraith. As long as you don't rush into a building to 1v3, die, and then instantly leave the game, Wraith can be a very strong legend to play as a solo player while still helping out your team. Her tactical allows you to escape from bad situations and stay alive. Then her portal can be used to rotate around the map, save your teammates, and much more if you learn all the secret tech she has. Plus, her ultimate got a slight cooldown buff in Season 18. And most importantly, she has a tiny hitbox. So even if you never use abilities, she can still be strong as her small body makes her very difficult to shoot. And now Loba. One thing that absolutely sucks about playing with randoms is that they rarely ever ping the loot you need. With Loba, that's never an issue because you will almost always have everything you need in a given match. And her black market is an easy way to help out your team without needing any real synergy or communication. Her bracelet is a great movement ability. And don't forget that with the bracelet, she can fit into very tight spaces, like the bars on the windows on King's Canyon or World's Edge. Don't forget she is also a support legend, so she can use her bracelet to run away and craft ally banners. Mad Maggie. Her wrecking ball is great for repositioning or stunning an enemy. Her passive allows you to move faster with shotguns, which is even better now with the shotguns being buffed. Her riot drill helps out when players are hiding behind cover or just to cause the enemies to panic. And it works perfectly with her second passive, which highlights enemies that she damages. She is super strong right now, but not as strong as Catalyst. Catalyst disrupts this list, as she is the only legend up this high who doesn't possess any movement abilities. Her ability to lock down a building is unrivaled, and she completely controls the pace of a fight. She doesn't even need to play inside buildings like the other defensive legends, as her ultimate provides great cover anywhere on the map, and her piercing spikes can be used as protection. If you want a solo queue, but you aren't into the whole fast movement playstyle, Catalyst is probably going to be your best bet. Now we're in the top 3 with Pathfinder. Now for average players, Pathfinder might not be the greatest as he has a large hitbox and his grapple could be hard to use. But as you probably already know, a good Pathfinder is almost unstoppable. The speeds at which you can reposition with his grapple are insane. It's going to take some practice, but Pathfinder, because of his grappling hook, is one of the strongest solo queue legends in Apex. And Bangalore. Her double time passive makes 1v1 close range fights in her favor as her strafe speed makes it very difficult for enemies to shoot you down. And her smoke can force enemies to play the way that she wants. And if you get her hands on a digital threat optic, she is overpowered. Just be careful if you're on controller, as her smoke takes away aim assist, which could take some getting used to. The best of the best for many seasons now, it is Horizon. Everything about her helps out in solo situations. The gravity lift helps her escape from fights and get high ground quickly. Her black hole ultimate, when combined with arc stars, leads to easy eliminations. And her spacewalk passive buffs your movement, making her much more difficult to hit. But all the best legends in the game won't help you out if you can't aim, which is why you need to watch this video of how to aim like an Apex Predator in Apex Legends.